So karibuni sana. My name is Caroline Mwangi. I guess all of you know me. And I can see some of my partners here. We are very happy to announce that we have launched the Diaspora Investment Desk with the goal of educating, building a knowledge hub about investment and business opportunities in Germany and in Kenya. We will be hosting Osman. He will be one of our regular clients, so that at least by hopefully as soon as possible, we can also acquire wealth in this country. And acquiring wealth in this country is also a way to make us also fit into the culture, because sometimes we come here, we're always living in transition. You're like, I will only settle when I go back to Africa. So we want you to settle here. And the only way you can settle is when you acquire knowledge. So looking forward to bringing different topics. We are also hoping to bring banks that offer also mortgages with the expertise from Osman and among others. So keep watch this space, share the network with us. We have a Facebook group. I will share the link in the chat so that at least you can also join the community. Thank you so much, Osman.
I also want to share. What's this? This meeting is being recorded. Okay, understood. Yeah, I'll just share my screen later on just to give you a brief introduction of who I am, what I do, etc. And I would also like to walk you through to some of your questions that you had initially, which was very good, I would say. It's good to have like some feedback initially. Then I'll know, okay, what at least I could start working on. Because if we're talking about real estate, you can talk about a lot. And there are different things one can talk about, and it might not interest everybody. But based on your questions, I could somehow get a good red line to give you some information. Okay, so let me just first of all share my screen. And if you have any questions in between, just feel free to jump in, ask your questions, and I'll see how I can answer best. Okay, so I prepared let me just close this, some slides. The topic today is, one have to admit somebody. Okay, the topic today is investing in real estate and access to finance in Germany. I know Angelo now. Some of you I do not know. I would no one to ask like 2 personal questions, but if you could just let me know how many of you by now have already bought property in Germany. You can speak?
Not yet.
Okay. Others? Oops. Okay. Just take your time. You can speak at any time if you wish to. Oh, something's going on here. Okay. Let me just first start with the introduction. Okay, again, the name is Osman Nyei. I'm a real estate investment advisor. I'm based in Bonn, Germany, and I've been working as a mortgage advisor, I would say the last, since 2012. I concentrate mostly on international clients. What does that mean? It means like 60% of my clients are non-residents. They do not even live in Germany. They are from abroad, I would say countries like China, Israel, US, Brazil, France, Russia, some time ago, not anymore, unfortunately, UK, Saudi Arabia, etc. The only African client I had was only from Egypt once. Unfortunately, I was hoping to have some more African clients, but who knows, maybe it will change after this one. Yeah, so that's around about 60% of my clients. 30% of my clients are actually living in Germany. They have like blue cards or limited residency. So I mean, it's difficult for blue card holders to get loans here in Germany. Not every bank is willing to provide a loan, but there's some few banks which will be willing, depending on the conditions, how much down payment, etc. And I would say 10% of my clients live, work in Germany, do not necessarily have to be Germans, but they do speak German, and they have an unlimited residency, etc. But I do not focus that much on such clients, even though the job is the same. But my focus is more on international clients. And if you want to get in touch with me afterwards, feel free to reach out. You have my mobile number here. I'm easily accessible. So if you want to send me a WhatsApp message and just start to chat, you can send me a WhatsApp message through this number. You can also send me an email and I'm happy to reply. I always think it's better to have a phone call or a video call, and it's more personal and we can get much more information across. That would be great. Okay, any questions to my person for now? Okay, then let me skip. Before we started the session, I sent out some questions. For example, what kind of information are you looking for? And the answers were, you cannot see all the answers here. Well, for example, how do I determine if the investment is good or not? How do the current interest rates affect the investment? How much down payment is necessary, etc. So you had several questions, which was really helpful for me to start and create this presentation. I would answer most of the questions. Those that I will leave out are somehow a bit personal, I would say. For example, are you looking forward to buy a property, etc.? Those are questions we can discuss that later. I would like to really get into the most important ones, which are 4 of those. I'll list them up later on. Okay. Then the next question would be like, would you like me to contact you at a later stage? Okay, some said, okay, rather not. Again, you can feel free to contact me at any time. I'm extremely flexible, even though there's lots of work to do, but one can reach me very easily if you want to reach me. And if you want to have a conversation afterwards at any time when you're ready, just let me know and then we can schedule a call. Then the last question, which is also interesting to see, is like, are you already employed in Germany, self-employed or a student? Here you can see 25 responses, but it was actually because those 9 who are students are also somehow employed, if that's correct. So therefore they clicked maybe 2 different boxes, employed and student, but actually there are like 16 responses in total. And what was also interesting, 1 investor. So there will be somebody who can maybe correct me if I'm wrong. That would be also interesting. But again, maybe some of you also had some experience with real estate financing, and if there's anything that you want to add, feel free to add any personal experience, etc. That would be really good. Okay. Then let me just get into the data, the statistics. Yeah? Hello? Okay, I think somebody's microphone is on. Yeah, you can keep it on, you can switch it up, but I thought you wanted to say something. I've seen some chat box. Okay, I can't respond immediately to the chat box right now, but I would look into it. Maybe all those questions can be gathered somehow and I would answer them at a later stage, okay? Okay, now I would like to give you some insights of what's happening right now on the markets. Here you can see the swap rates, which are actually quite important. So those are important indicators for our financial market. So the banks, they would simply just set their interest rates based on this swap rate here. And I wanted to show you the entire graph. So sometimes what you only see is this section starting from 2020 to 2022 to frighten somebody. Basically, it's how I see it, just to show you that the interest rates have increased drastically. Yes, they have increased drastically, but if you compare to before 2010, which is around 2008, where we had the financial crisis, etc., here you can see that the interest rates were even much higher. So now, why am I showing this graph? I do get a question from clients very often. Oh, what do you recommend? Should we secure the interest rates for 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years? I would say it was easier to answer the question in 2020, because I would definitely go ahead and say, yeah, secure this interest rate as long as possible. Now, over here, it's difficult to answer the question. Do you secure the interest rate as long as possible? If you don't, then you might face a scenario where we had in 2008 at some point in time, who knows? And if you do, then at least I would say after 10 years, if the interest rates reduce at some point in time, you can switch your contract to any other contract, even though if you've secured the interest rate as long as possible. So this, I just want to show you this graph. So some people are somehow misled, thinking, oh, the interest rates are too high nowadays. It has been much higher before. Okay. The next slide is the house price index. Here, Europace is a platform that many brokers use in order to finance different projects or people have or clients have. And here you can see the different house prices. For example, Eigentumswohnung, apartments, new developments, existing buildings, existing houses. Here you can see that house prices have been increasing over time. Now in 2023, there's some slight reduction in the different house prices. What does that mean ultimately? Clients, again, always ask, okay, is it the best time to buy now? If you consider this graph, increasing house prices over time, then logically you would say, yes, it might be interesting to buy a property now. But because of the high interest rate, many have these expectations, oh, the property prices would reduce, which is a valid expectation. But will it actually reduce? We do not really know. But my recommendation is, like, you need to make your own decision if it's necessary to buy a property now or not. If it's up to me, I would say every time it's a good time to buy property. One really just needs to evaluate all the factors, all the information you get, and then you make a decision. Okay, any questions here? Okay, now the next slide again, I hope I'm not shocking you too much, is the inflation rates in Germany. Now there's also the question, how do the inflation rates play a role? Obviously, if you're renting out a property, you would also need to consider inflation rate. Why? Because if you're buying a property as an investment, even if you're buying a property to hold yourself, you have running costs. And now these running costs are also going. Hello? Okay. Okay, the running costs are also going in accordance with the inflation rate. So as you can see, butter has been expensive over the time. Prices have been increased. It's a similar thing with the inflation rate. For properties as well, we do need to take it into account when we are calculating if an investment makes sense, yes or no. So what does all this mean? First of all, interest rates increasing, property prices increasing, inflation rates also increasing. Does it still make sense to invest in real estate, which was one of the questions? Now one could say, oh, everything's increasing, doesn't make sense, we can pack our things right now and we all go home. But I would want to, change your mind somehow. So please stay with me and I'll show you some important information. Okay, now some of the questions you asked, let me just ask in between, am I too fast or is it okay?
It's okay.
It's okay.
Okay, wonderful, perfect. Good. Some of the questions that came up, I would like to know if it's worth and the benefits of investing in real estate in such a high-end market in Germany, if it's worth it to invest in real estate in such a high-end market. We would answer this question. I'll show you something which I always use to when I'm working with clients. It's an Excel table. It's very easy to understand. And the second question, how do I determine if the investment is a good one? Also a very good question. This I'll show you as well. And how would the current interest rate scenario impact in my investment and how much down payment is required? Now, all these 4 questions I'm going to show you in the next slides or the next Excel file that I prepared for you. Okay, but before we go to the Excel file, to determine if an investment is good or not, oops, sorry, I'm seeing somebody's trying to enter. To determine if an investment is good or not, there are 3 steps one would have to follow. The first step is a static investment calculation. So basically, you only look at the yearly yield you're getting and you divide it by the purchase price, the gross purchase price that you're paying for your property, for the investment. That can show you if this investment is good or not, but it is not enough. You need to do some more if you want to really understand, does this investment pay out? Now, this static is actually a point of view perspective. You're only looking at this point in time. Is it good or not? You're not considering all the other factors, which is, again, inflation, the interest rate, the rent you're receiving over time. All these factors you're not including. You're just looking into today, how does it look like? And this is what many real estate agents, I would say, present to the clients. But this, by looking at this alone, you might make a big mistake. So I wouldn't do so. I'll get to it later on so you have a better idea what I mean. Now, there are two other ways of looking into if an investment is good or not. You have the dynamic investment calculation, where you're only looking at the property return. Property return basically means I have 300,000 euros now. I take my entire 300,000 euros and put it into the property. Now, I would take a look at the next 10 years. How does my investment play out in the next 10 years? Okay, with just investing my equity. The investment return now, they would make use of leverage. This is also financial modeling. You would make use of the loan. You would make use of the different, I would say, investment vehicles a bank offers in order to make this investment a much better investment than it is when you only invest your equity. But again, it sounds, it doesn't say a lot, but if you see the Excel table later on, then it will give you a better idea. So let me just switch immediately to the Excel table, which I have prepared. Do you have any questions for now? Sorry? Okay, I think. Hello? Your microphone is very low. I can't hear you properly, unfortunately. Okay. Now, let me just continue here. I think it wasn't a question. This is a case that I was working on of a client of mine who is buying a property in Berlin. The property is in Yorkstrasse 17, it's 76 square meters size, and it has a purchase price of 330,000 euros. Can you all see this Excel file that I'm showing you right now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If it's a bit too complicated, please stop me at every time and just ask a question, yeah? Okay? Good. Now, the first thing I said when we're looking at the static investment calculation, point number one, okay, is basically taking a look at, you have the purchase price, which is 330,000 euros. Then over here, you have the transaction cost, which is notary fees, estate agent fees, as well as the land transfer tax in Berlin. Okay, so what you're looking at is the gross initial yield, which is over here. The gross initial yield is simply just an equation of the rents you would receive over a year divided by the purchase price. Now, this just tells you, okay, the initial yield is 4.17%. Now, 4.17 again?
Yeah.
Okay, it was no question.
No.
Now, the 4.17%, that looks interesting at the beginning. And this is what you always see when you're looking into all those brochures. They say initial yield of 3%, 5%, 7%, and whatever they can say. But this is only a point in time view. It doesn't tell you much about the investment. So one would have to make further calculations to really understand, is this 4.17% good or not? Now, the next step you do, you need to have a dynamic look, which means, what if you would invest your entire capital, buy the property out of your own funds? Okay. Now, when you're buying the property out of your own funds, obviously, you'll be receiving a rent out of this property. Or first of all, what you do, you pay the 330,000 euros, you have your transaction cost, and you have a total cost of 366,000. Okay? If you have the 366,000, you buy this apartment cash. You'll be receiving a rent over the years. Now the rent is increasing slightly by 1%. This is my assumption. One can always make your own assumption. You can say my rent will be increasing by 2% every year, by 3%. But I always like to calculate very conservative, and I'll say, let me just increase rent by 1%. Okay. Now, at the same time, you also have running costs, because when you're managing a property, you have to pay the trash and so on and so forth. Okay. I said that the running costs for this property are €5 per square meter, whereas you as an owner, you're only paying 1/3 of this price. 2/3 is being paid by the tenant. Okay. So therefore, I went ahead and said, okay, we're subtracting the running costs from your rent, which would give you a cash flow of this amount, as you can see. Now, let's just assume after 10 years, you want to sell this property. Now, hello? Okay. Now, after 10 years, you're selling this property, and you would sell the property for a price of $364,000. Why 364? You're buying the property at a price of 23 times, or roughly 24 times your rent. Now, your rent is increasing over the years, and you would also, I'm hearing myself. Okay, hello? Okay, and you would also sell the property to a value of 24 times your rent, which is the rent after 10 years over here. This gives you your 364,000. Now, if you want to examine this entire cash flow over here, you would have to do a certain calculation, which is the net present value. Now, what comes out? It basically says that this investment, this is the calculation here, I've already calculated it. This investment, we're examining this entire cash flow. The investment is not a good investment. So at the beginning, with a static view, you would have thought, oh, I'm receiving 4.17% on this investment. But if you apply the dynamic view, you would find out that after 10 years, you have actually made a loss. Okay. Do you all follow by now?
I'm lost.
Okay, thank you. Good. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean, okay, you can just throw this away and forget about it completely? Only if you invest with your own capital, which means you go full in cash. What if you take the money from a bank? Okay, now, sorry, let me just switch this off. Sorry. Okay. Now, what if you go ahead and take, let's say, at least the purchase price, you would finance it completely through a bank, which means you're only paying the transaction costs, and the remaining amount entirely, the purchase price, you would finance it by any bank. Now, the bank is giving you this loan 100% of the purchase price at an interest rate of 4.49%. Okay. Now, how does it look like? Now it changes. So by only leveraging, you make a bad investment, or you turn a bad investment into a good investment. Now, why is it so? You're using somebody else's money. Your own initial investment was only 36,000 euros. And yes, you are having a negative cash flow. So out of your own pocket, you are also paying towards the property as well as the interest rate slightly. But then you also sell the property at a certain period of time, give the bank their money back, and you will have made a return of 136,000 euros. So again, one can always have a different perspective. Statically, it looks like it's a good investment. Dynamically, if you put in cash out of your own pockets completely, it's a bad investment. but then dynamic by using the bank's funds, you're turning it into a good investment. But these are calculations that I don't know. You can also do it by your own if you'd like to. You need to have the calculators. If you want, I can share this with you, and you would always have to change the different factors to determine if it's a good investment or not so good investment. Do you follow?
Yes.
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 Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes.
Is the positive result from taking a loan due to the tax benefit on interest that you paid over the years, or what is the main reason that is turning it positive?
Yeah. Now, what's the main reason that turning positive? I mean, you simply have to take a look at what's being calculated. Now, we're calculating this entire cash flow. You have, if you use your calculator, it's easy to calculate. You have the 36,000 minus all these other factors, all those other cash flows. I'm making it easy right now, but it's not exactly how you calculate it. You need to do it differently. And then you're getting your potential 356,000 after 10 years out of this property. Now, the 356,000, how much do you have to give back to the bank? Only 147,000. Yeah. So that's the only amount you have to give back to the bank, because most of the amount you have been paying back over time. Here, you have basically you're taking cash out of your pocket and putting it in the property. And of course, the property is increasing over time. The value is increasing, and by selling it for this price, you would make this investment into a positive investment by not using your own money but somebody else's money, which is the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, and now the taxes do not even play a role. Now the taxes now would even make this investment a better investment. Why? Because you have here your cash flow out of the rent, which means you're receiving 12,000 euros every year rental income, but you have 14,000 euros interest payment towards the bank. The difference, roughly 2,000. So this 2,000 would reduce your tax burden, and you would even receive a tax bonus on top. Was that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So even taxation will make this investment an even better investment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what other possibilities are there to make this investment an even much better investment? Now, what could you do? You could go ahead and negotiate with the bank. I do not want to pay back the principal. Now, the principal payments are all these payments. Do you all know what principal payment is?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah?
If you could elaborate further to understand, for those who are not in the business field, I would appreciate the thing.
Sure, of course. Now, when you're taking out a loan, you usually have mostly two different payments. One is the interest. The bank is not giving you the money for free. They'll charge you an interest, and you're paying back the interest, which you can see over here. It's reducing over time. But at the same time, when you're paying them an interest, you're also paying back the loan, and that's the principal, which is increasing over time. Okay? So the principal payment is actually, it is seen as a savings plan, because you're putting liquid cash is being transformed into solid cash, which is the property. So the money still stays yours. Yeah? Now, you could negotiate with the bank and tell them, okay, this principal payment, I do not want to pay it back. I would rather want to put it into a savings plan, a so-called Bausparvertrag, for example, or a pension savings plan, etc. Now, you can see by leveraging, we're having a net present value, which means a total return of 136,000 euros. Now you would tell the bank, okay, I do not want to pay back the principal. I just want to save this principal payment and contribute it into a savings plan till maybe after 10 years or after 20 years, etc. Now what happens, as you would see here, you see the interest payments, they stay the same throughout. Why? Because you're not paying back the principal. The principal payments are zero because they are going into a savings plan. And here you have increased the value of your investment by not giving the bank the money back for the property, but by putting it into a different savings plan. Do you follow?
Yes, Osman, could you explain the mechanism through which the value of the investment has increased? Sure. I don't suppose it's through putting through the returns that we are going to get on the money that we are saving or investing. Sorry, you can repeat again? I'm just asking about the mechanisms through which we have right now increased our returns on the investment. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. Now the mechanism is actually, I won't say it's quite simple, but now what is happening? By paying back, or let me just start from the beginning. The property that you're buying, if you would use your own cash to buy this property, we have seen here that it would be a bad investment, right? Now, the more of your cash you use, the worse the investment gets. So the more of a third person's or the bank's cash you use, the better the investment gets. And in this case, by paying back the principal, it simply just means you are putting your money towards the property, which you should not do. Now, when you should not do so, if the cost of capital, which is 4.49%, is lower than the rate of return. Initially, the rate of return over here is 4.17% initially. Then this investment would definitely not be good. So as long as the cost of capital is lower than the rate of return, the investment will always be negative. Now, by using leverage, we're increasing the rate of return. Here is 23% in comparison to the cost of capital, 4.9%, 4.49, sorry. So what does that mean? If the internal rate of return or the rate of return is higher than the cost of capital, then take as much as debt as you can afford. And the more you take, the better the investment gets, right? And by paying back the principal, it simply also just means that you're using your money towards the property, which you should not do, as long as the cost of capital is lower than the rate of return. Was that clear? Yes. Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. So I just wanted to ask, this negotiation with the bank, is it everybody or is it people? Can you just walk to any bank? Because I know they always insist they take a certain amount of the repayment has to go to interest, another amount has to go to the principal. That is the first question.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it's a good question, actually. Not everybody, of course. Now, why not everybody is the key point is like you can afford, if you can afford it, which means if the income, the household income is sufficient to allow you to structure your investment as such. Okay. Now, if your household income is not sufficient, then it might even be the case that you have to bring in some down payment in order to back up this investment. Okay, because not everybody can take up a loan of 100%, even especially in this time, in this scenario, interest rate scenario, etc., that we're in right now. You can only take up 100% loan if not only the property can back the investment, but your income is also sufficient to back the investment.
Okay. Yeah, I think you should have explained that because I think it would have given the wrong hopes.
Oh, no, okay. Now, let me just give you a different perspective. Okay, let me give you a different perspective. Let's just say, okay, what do we say best? You, let's say your income is just sufficient in order to allow you to take 50% loan.
Mm-hmm.
And you happen to have 50% somewhere. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, you can continue, yeah.
Okay. Let's just say, for instance, your income is something like, in this case, I'll say ideally, to buy such a property, your income should be roughly like around 3,000 euros net per month in order to buy such a property, right? Then you can definitely go for 100%, not definitely, but you can push towards the 100% loan. Not every bank would accept, but there's some banks that would accept, okay? Now, if your income is something like 3,000, maybe 2,800, then ideally, you would have to bring in some more than just 9% equity. Let's just say I already calculated here 25% equity. Okay, 25%. Now, bringing in 25% equity basically means that you have to bring in roughly around 94,000 euros. Let's say roughly 100,000 euros. Is that realistic, or should I go lower?
Yes, definitely. I just wanted to, for you to especially clarify for people who have not, who don't have experience with that not everybody can walk into any bank and they're given 100% loan. It's very important.
Yeah. I mean, in order to get a 100% loan, there are different factors that have to come in place. First of all, if you have a property nowadays, the relation between rental income and property prices are not as before. It is very, very difficult. I had some clients from Israel. They are really good in looking for properties. They found a property with a rental income of roughly, it was something like 1,000 euros on a 20 or almost 25 square meter apartment. Right? Because they're actually quite smart, because they furnish their apartments and they're always, in Berlin, they're always having those short-term tenants who are coming for 6 months, and they're always booked. Right? Now, in such a case, the rental income is sufficient to cover even a 100% loan.
Yes.
Right? So now, first of all, it's the property. But now, the property alone is not sufficient, because the banks would also take a look at your income. If your income is sufficient enough that you could not rely on the property and pay the loan out of your income, that even makes it much better. The willingness of the banks is even much higher. Okay. And again, we're moving away from this calculation. We're moving actually in the direction, okay, when can you afford a loan, etc. I also finance a client right now who, in this current situation, he financed 100%, even more. The transaction cost he also financed. It is still possible, but again, your income should be good enough in order to back such an investment. Yeah. So I hope I did not give you like wrong hopes. It is always possible to go to any bank and get a 100% loan. No, that's not it. Your income should somehow be in relation to the property that you're buying, or the interest and the payments towards the bank you'll be paying. So there must be some kind of relation between.
Does it make a difference if for the bank, if you're buying the property to stay versus if you're buying the property as an investment property, as to whether they will give you 100%? Say your income is good, right?
Well,
which scenario gives you a better edge to get more loan from the bank?
Yeah, well, it actually doesn't make much a large difference because what are the banks doing? They're doing the calculations, again, the household calculation. If you're buying an apartment which you're renting out, which will obviously mean that your current apartment that you're living in, you would still be paying your rent,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So this will also be being taken into account, which means you have your rent that you're paying, and then you have the monthly installment of the loan for the rental property that you're also paying. Now, some banks would say, you have some banks that would say, okay, we can only consider 50% of your rental income. There are other banks who would say you can only consider 20% of your rental income. Some banks say they consider 100% of your rental income. What if you find a bank that only covers 20 or considers 20% of your rental income, which means your income should be sufficient enough to cover 80% plus your rent, plus your cost of living. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So these are things, I mean, one would have to go in details in, and the question is, if you can afford a loan, yes or no. I would say if you you didn't have any liabilities, no consumer loan, nothing, and you're receiving an amount X of net income per month, simply just calculate 108 times your net income, your monthly net income, and then you get a rough idea of how much loan would a bank be willing to offer you in general. Yeah.
What percentage did you say again of the net?
It's like 108 times the net, roughly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, you can have a rough idea of, okay, how much loan can I receive? But this is only the case if you're somebody who doesn't have any other property, you don't have any other outstanding loans, etc.
Okay.
So this is what you would have to consider. Yeah, what else can be interesting? I wanted to answer the questions in regards to how to determine if the investment is a good one. I
had another question.
Yeah.
You said that when you negotiate with the bank that you don't pay the principal, you pay it into, did you call it OSHR or OHR, or what did you call it?
Bausparvertrag.
Bausparvertrag.
Yeah.
So this money is locked, like you can't like divert it later into. Okay, it's locked money, like okay.
Well, it is still your money.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but you can't use it like for other stuff. Okay, then.
No, unless you sell the property and then you have access to the funds again. And it's not only the Bausparvertrag, you can also invest it into, say, a pension plan. So any long-term plan that allows you a fixed income and also gives you a so-called guaranteed return at a certain period of time. I mean, nothing is guaranteed, but it gives you a somehow guaranteed return at a fixed point, a certain point in time. Yeah. Okay, and now maybe this question, how much down payments is required? Maybe I'll take you just on a short trip to a calculator to just give you some idea in regards to, just a minute, what do we have here? Where's my calculator? Here, okay. Let me just stop sharing quickly because I need to do some changes here, sorry. Okay. I just need to make sure that the name is all clear. Okay, let me just share my screen again. Where do I share it? Okay, now this is the case. Okay, one would want to get a loan from a bank. How do we calculate it, etc.? I'm just going to do it very quick. We have somebody born in 1980. The person is niched off Elternzeit, is working. Elternzeit, I don't think you get a loan. Okay, blah, 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 blah. The person has an income of, let's say, 3,000, okay? To make it a bit more realistic, the person has 2 kids, which means you're receiving kindergarten of 500 euros. You're receiving a pension the statutory pension of 2,000. You're currently paying a rent of 1,000, and file 9. And this is the question that you asked just now. What if you're renting and you're renting right now, you're buying a property as an investment? This is what we're going to look at. Let me some vermieten, yeah, okay. Then we'll take a look at the property quickly. I'm just going through this system quite quickly, just to give you. Then you're buying a property of 204,000 euros. You're paying all the costs, which is here first, estate agent fees, notary fees, and land transfer tax. And again, this person is bringing in 94,000, similar to our example. Let me just put this one at 300,000, okay? So we have something similar to our example. Okay, let me just take a step back to give you an explanation what I did. There's a person, he's buying a property, or she's buying a property for 300,000 euros. They have certain transaction costs, which means the total cost is 332,000 euros. They are bringing in roughly 95,000 euros as a down payment, which means they would still have to finance 238,000. Okay. Now we're financing this 238,000 with a fixed interest rate of 10%. No, sorry, with a 10 years fixed interest duration at 2% annual repayments. And now you can see the different banks who will be willing to provide a loan or not. Everything that's in red basically says, no, they're not interested, they're not willing to provide a loan. Now we need to see anything in green. For example, Berliner Sparkasse over here, they would potentially provide a loan. But actually they will. I just need to do some changes. But you can see here the rent that, I mean, the rate towards the bank is 1,216, as you can see over here. But the person is only receiving a rent of 600 euros per month. So which means a certain amount has to be paid out of your own cash. Yeah. Yeah. Now, in the household calculation, how does it look? This is the household calculation. Now, the bank would simply just consider your 3,000 euros, the Kindergeld you're receiving, the rent, and as I mentioned, there are some banks who would only consider 50% of the rent that you're receiving. So they only consider 300 euros. Okay, Elterngeld, I think this is something I put in that the person is also receiving in addition. Well, actually, it's not correct, but never mind. Let's just go ahead. And then here you have the Wohnkosten, which is the rent that you're still paying. Your cost of living would be deducted. This person also has a car, and here are the total expenses. And this is still state remaining, 2,140. Now, out of the 2,140, you should pay your monthly installment towards the bank, and what remains is 924. So in this case, the bank would be willing to go ahead and provide a loan. Okay. But this is something I would go through with each and every one based on your specific situation and determine, okay, how much down payment is needed, what bank should we approach in order to get the best results, etc. Yes, so this was it from my side with most of the questions I tried to answer. I hope it was not too technical that I lost some of you. But I'm seeing there are many people who have attended, who have joined, which is great. If you have any questions now, maybe you have some other questions, something I did not present today, please feel free to ask.
For that nugget, I remember when we did the first session, I was so impressed because these are things the bank will never show you. You are showing us behind the curtain. And I think that's what we just need to believe, that it is possible to invest in this country and also to diversify your portfolio. So don't put your eggs all in one basket. You live in this country and then after 10 years, you are like, oh, I wish I knew. So we don't want you to say that in 10 years. You would like you to say, I'm so happy that I attended that session that was organized by the AG Career Hub, and I was able to invest and pass this on to the generations to come. So Susan, I don't know if Susan, if you'd like to unmute yourself and say hello briefly before we go into the Q&A. I can also see Timothy Tiri is also there, but I'm sure he's on mute, also supporting the Diaspora Desk. Feel free to introduce yourself if you're still here. If not, then I'll introduce you on your behalf, and then we have the Q&A session. Susan, are you able to unmute yourself and say hello?
Yes, I have. Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Detma, as Karen has said. She's my colleague in this. I would say thank you so much, Mr. Nyei. This has been very, very informative, and we've gotten every bit, and I think we are ready to put it into practice, because this is information is power. And through such sessions, which as Caroline has said, we'll be organizing many of them, which will be, I'm sure, will be of much benefit to each one of us, because we have come here with a motive of growing, be it financially and of course psychologically. And even we can only do that by joining hands and trying to tap any information that comes on our way, which we find of value. So thank you so much, and welcome, karibuni sana to this noble cause of Diaspora Investment Desk. You're part of us, we are partners, we only guide you in this. Thank you, and like I've said, karibuni sana even to our page. Asanteni.
Okay, wonderful. Then again, thank you very much to all the listeners. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have some further questions. If you want to reach out to me, you can see my number, my contact details blended in down there. I'm very flexible. So some people just say it, but in my case, you can reach me at any time. I'll try to answer very quickly. I would say within 12 hours, you definitely have an answer. And if you would like to speak to me, which I personally prefer, we would also always have like a video call where we can exchange thoughts and see how one can best assist. And also to the students who are on board right now, if you believe you're like not yet ready to buy, but you simply want to know exactly what needs to be done in order to get there, yeah, you can also feel free to call me and we can have a conversation and discuss about what needs to be done in order to get to buy your property in the next 4 or 5 years or so. That's it from my end. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Osman, on behalf of the Diaspora Investment Desk. Thank you for that very knowledgeable session. I think we all go home at least with a dream. We hope that we have revived a dream, and looking forward to more interactions, more success stories. We are ready to come and toss when you buy the property. Please let us know, invite us, and we will come. And thank you so much on behalf of the AG Career once more. Osman, alles Gute und bis bald.
Bye-bye.